the old young auntie. She's looking so young and beautiful this morning, and good to see her this morning. But then for us, when it comes to our life, we need to take this truth deep into us. This life is a test and a trust, and not a long assignment, but a short assignment. And we have looked at various aspects in this journey of life. John chapter. Yeah. 1 John chapter 4 verse 17, we said we are to be like him in this world. 1 John 2 verse 6 says that those who live in him must walk as Jesus did. So when we are talking about aligning our life to Jesus, we are just wanting to watch out what he has been while he was in this world. And see if there is any mismatch, we try ourselves to match our life to his life. And that way, we can be like him and we can walk like him in this world. And when we walk and be like him in this world, and I know that's going to make much of a difference to us personally and to the community where we live in. We have looked at aligning our life to his redemptive purpose. What was his redemptive purpose? That all should know God and none should perish. And that's the same commitment he has given to us. The calling and command he has given to us in Matthew 28. Go ye therefore into the whole world. And we are called to align ourselves to that redemptive purpose through our life by being like him and by walking like him. Preaching the gospel and discipling people around us. Then we looked at various other aspects of his, what we can know from him. Last being what is lacking in the kingdom. Why kingdom suffers. Why kingdom suffers? Because there is nobody willing to serve. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. But the Son of Man said, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And if kingdom suffers because there's lack of laborers, there's lack of servants. And if we adopt that attitude to us, to be a servant or not to be served. I have shown one beautiful slide last time when I shared that church is not a cruise ship where everyone else enjoys and few get into serving. But church is like a warship. I've been in a warship, so I know what it means to be in a warship, where all hands are on deck all the time. There's no one is there to be served. Everyone is on serving. Everybody is on call all the time, 24/7. So that is what the model of the church ought to be. That we are all ready to dirty ourselves, to be servants, serving God's purpose. So we have looked at various things, but then this morning, yet again, we want to come to look at something very unique about Jesus' life. And if you feel blessed through this message, I would say please compliment Rashmi, because he inspired me with a video, and I felt that this is, yes, I thought I almost come to the close of the series, but then she sent me this clip, then it inspired me to take up something through that. And that's what we are going to be looking at this morning. Next slide, please. Yeah. Jesus' habit of praying. Do we need to align to this aspect? I know if I ask Venkat and Rakesh, they will tell me the challenges on weekly times of prayer. I know I keep seeing the post. Prayer is cancelled today because no one else signed up. We are all busy people. What is busy means? Being under the yoke of Satan. And when we are busy in this manner, we will not have time to. But then you think Jesus was not a man with activities through his life? He was moving from place to place. He had no time to rest. But then we read these things in his life. John? We read in Mark 1:35, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Luke 5:16, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. After he had dismissed them, he said that he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spend the night praying to God. What does it say? Spend 10 minutes, right? Spend the whole night praying to God. This is precisely, basically, before just he chose his disciples. He said that he spent one whole night praying alone with his Father. And he said that once when Jesus was praying in private and his disciples were with him. These are few references we can see and look at it and see that Jesus had this very personal habit, very interesting or very exciting habit of wanting to draw time out to himself to be with the Father. There was no schedule that was busy and kept him away from this habit. Nothing made him to, cancel his personal time with the Father. No schedule could creep in. Nothing was more important than spending the time with the Father. I know when it comes to us, I'm standing alone here. There's a saying it says, when you lift your finger at somebody, that same way I'm feeling it that way this morning. When I'm standing up facing you, I know all of your eyes are on me. So I'm not telling that because I'm speaking this, I'm a man all of prayer. No, I'm not reached that. I too have struggles to make this as a habit. But then collectively, as I speak, don't think that okay, he's a man of prayer, that's why he's able to speak. No, I'm speaking for our collective edification this morning, not because I'm past the test in this regard. No, I'm not past the test. But then this is where God is calling us to. In Luke 11:1, we read like this. One day when Jesus was praying in a certain place, when he finished, one of his disciples said to him, Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples. We know there is a lot of people who are following Jesus. And we could see this, that even when John the Baptist was there, he also had a lot of disciples, followers after him. And he taught them to pray. And then one among them was here with following Jesus at this point of time. And he know that John taught his disciples to pray. And also, something that would be missed many a times as a learning pattern. Something, I would say that there is something we can learn when we observe the life of the people. There were many followers, many disciples around Jesus, but Bible says there is one among them, not all of them collectively. One among them observed this aspect about Jesus, that he often withdrew himself privately to spend time in prayer. This is something exciting. This is something unique. This is something, he was so, moved by this. He had kept on observing this, and, when it comes to the point of, no more go, he went to Jesus. Master, I know. I'm seeing this in your life. Teach me to pray. I want to learn to pray. Not all the disciples, but one among them. So this is something I would say that we should not miss. We should be in that one who will not miss to observe these things which is happening, which are necessary and important for life, and should not overlook this aspect of prayer. But then we sadly see this habit not being observed or picked up by the church and us. We talk about prayer, we study prayer, we say our prayers, but then how often do we seek the Lord to teach us to pray? Why there is this lack? We will come to that. So few thoughts for us to ponder this morning. Prayer is our strongest position. Any dispute? When we are in prayer, we are in the strong position. Prayer is frequently unnerving because it is the activity we engage in between a catastrophe and a deliverance. Something mess up has happened, we suddenly lift up or call out to the Lord to pray. Something, difficult happens, something of a challenging situation aroused, then we pray and we are seeking the deliverance in between. It's unnerving when we go to pray in this manner. Getting alone gives our mind the space it needs to conceptualize life-transforming spiritual needs. Having that exclusive time, specific time, set aside time to be with the Lord, it will help us. It will give our mind space that needs to, create space for the spiritual, transforming spiritual needs personally for us. It says that when we place our morning eyes on God, He gives our eyes sight. He gives our eyes sight on greater things in our day. He may show us what will unfold maybe during the day ahead. But then for that, we need to place our morning eyes on God. We'll move into understand prayer a little more deeper, the DNA of prayer. It's our power, it's our strength, and through prayer what we do, we get direct connection to the greatest ruler of this world, or the creator of this world. When we are in the mode of prayer, it helps us to shift from our selfish plans to align to God's plan. When we pray, it will help us to, expose us, and because of that, we are able to shift ourselves, our selfish plans to God's plan. When being a prayer warrior, being one who pray regularly, it gives us the ability to be an influencer, a pleader, and a worker in the kingdom that counts. Very beautiful, isn't it? The DNA of prayer. Very beautiful for us to look at, oh wow, what all prayer can do. We'll get more of the DNA. It says that it's our ticket to our greatest needs being met in an awe-inspiring ways. Prayer is a ticket we can use to get things done in an awe-inspiring way. It's a hope that confirms to our heart that we have a hope. It makes us hopeful of the hope we have in Jesus. It's our peace that the Creator is still at work in creating things. His creative power is still at work. He continues to create things. It is a power found in uplifted hands and in the quietness of a solitary room. We know the power of an uplifted hand, isn't it? We know the first battle. Israelites went out to fight. Moses' hands was lifted up, and as long as it was lifted up, they were winning. When he was weary and his hands were dropped, they were defeated every time. And then we hear about Joshua and one of the other came to lift up his hand. So that is the power of an uplifted hand. But it says not as we read like the Pharisees and Sadducees, they like to lift up holy hands in public places to draw attention. No. We are talking about being in a solitary room when your knees are bent and hands lifted up. It's our ability to call the great physician to a family member in need. Prayer is that. This morning, Srikanth has put up a post in the group. He praying in hope for something God's deliverance to see in his brother-in-law's life. That is what by prayer we do it. We stand in the gap. We become a catalyst for influence in many ways. Furthermore, it's our emergency exit door from what the devil has already cooked up to destroy us. When we know that he has cooked up plans to destroy us, prayer can become an exit door for us to escape from his strategy and his plans. It's our greatest weapon in a world that is building bigger and bigger weapons. Nations are spending crores and crores of money only to invent and develop weapons of mass destruction. But then we have the greatest weapon in our hand God has given to us. That is prayer. And it is our lifeline when we feel we have lost all in life. It was one of Jesus' greatest habits. Shouldn't it be ours too? That is the challenge we need to ask God this morning. A praying life will bring a living, vibrant relationship with God. Then that can give us a vibrant relationship. It says that what we do is important, but what we are is more important. If we are his sons and daughters, primary focus is to seek his face and to seek that communion with him, intimacy with him. And that's where we need to move on. When we have a praying life, we become aware of and enter the story God is waving around us or concerning us. It says that learning to pray doesn't offer you a less busy life. I know our life remain to be busy, but it will offer you a less busy heart. Your heart will be at rest. Your heart, you will not find that heart pounding faster and you don't know what to do. You may have still a busy schedule, but then you will be at peace and rest. It says that praying is going before God without pretense. We can do this to each one of us. We can be pretending to each one of us, but then when we go before God, we are naked. We need to realize that His eyes can see through all our motives and desires. Prayer exposes our selfishness and our spiritual powerlessness. So because of this, I would say that when Jesus says in John, we have looked at it last time also, John 15:5, when he says that, apart from me, you can do nothing. When he says this about his relationship with the Father, apart from him, I can do nothing. If that is the case of Jesus, where should we place ourselves? Where is our position? If we ever think and act as if we are able to manage our own life, and I would say that we are doomed. That's not the way we should place ourselves. If Jesus was so dependent on God, and because of that he had this constant communion with his Father to know what he needs to be doing and progressing in life, I think this is something which we need to align ourselves to. We too should make ourselves dependent on Jesus. When we know that we, like Jesus, can do self on our own, then prayer can make a difference for us. Without prayer, when we know that without prayer we can't make much difference, that brings value to prayer in our life. But yet, I know it's beautiful so far. I'm sure that you have enjoyed it bit. But there is a big problem. Why? In spite of all this is not something new I put it before you. We all know the DNA of prayer. We know how good it is. We know how it will bless each one of us. We know the necessity and need of it very well. But yet why we don't find time to pray? Why we don't find to, I won't say that come together now, this is login to pray from our own home and set up. COVID has put us into the liberty and the freedom and the joy of being in our own home and login to pray and to be part of the studies. Other than Saturday, we don't any other physical meeting, Venkat? What a blessing of life. 2 years back, it was not like this. We had to crisscross, find time to travel from place to place to have fellowship, cell meetings, life group meetings, and times of prayer. Now, God has given us such a blessed thing on a platter called Zoom. Man, login. But even then, we find it difficult to join in prayer. Why? Venkat, tell me how many login this week after this message, okay? Let's see first one. Prayer attacks sin. Therefore, sin attacks prayer. We are on constant attack in our prayer life because of sin. You know what? From the beginning of time, when man committed sin in the Garden of Eden, what he tried to do? He tried to hide from God. And that's what's happening even now. That's one of the reasons. Man has been doing that ever since. We try to hide away. We try to slip away. We try not to give face eye contact in that measure with God, because there is something coming behind us. There's a shadow which is following us. And the shadow is constantly attacking us. And because of that, I would say prayer attacks sin. Therefore, sin attacks prayer and make us prayerless people. People don't pray not because of time, but because of sin. We find it challenging. It's not that we are so busy that we can't find time, but then this is picked up from, as I said, the message which Rasmi has sent me. It was so beautifully, the pastor was sharing it, so I thought it's good for us to understand this. Sin leads to prayerlessness, and prayerlessness leads to sin. Sin leads to prayerlessness, and prayerlessness leads to sin. And once you start praying, your prayer goes after sin. Prayer exposes sin. Prayer neutralizes the sin in our life. Prayer makes us to confess the sins and destroy the hold of sin in our life. It says a sinning man stops praying and a praying man stops sinning. A sinning man stops praying, but a praying man stops sinning. Sin is going to squeeze prayer out of your life, and prayer is going to squeeze sin out of your life. Which one do you want to choose? You want the habit of sin to be squeezed out of your life? Get into the mode of prayer. Be willing to be on your knees more time. Then those that become a habit in your life will find its roots being pulled out. J.C. Ryle said like this: prayer and sin will not stay together in the same heart, because either prayer will consume sin or sin will choke your prayer life. There's another man called Bunyan. He said like this: prayer will make a man cease from sin, or sin will entice a man to cease from prayer. In 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 23, it says that prayerlessness is sin. If we have prayerlessness, we as a people are people who does not pray. That means we are harboring sin in our life. The second one is prayer attacks the enemy, therefore the enemy attacks prayer. Prayer is a direct assault on the enemy. It's a very strategic weapon God has given to us. Even if we miss the target, it aroused a lot of commotion. And by that we are able to call the attention of God to come to our rescue. It's not necessary that every time we hit, it will be on bullseye. No, it may miss. We may not miss the bullseye, but then we are talking to God and we are calling the attention of God, and God will get involved. God will get involved. Prayer attacks the enemy, therefore the enemy attacks prayer. Daniel 6 is a beautiful picture of that. Daniel was a man full of prayer, and he was doing exceedingly well, and all around him become jealous. somehow we should put him down. After all, who is he? He's not one of our own either. He has been a slave, we have been brought in. And he is ruling over us. It's not possible. We should somehow trip him. They looked around, but then they couldn't find nothing. Nothing to trip him and cause him to fall. But then they said, yeah, that's the only way we can trap him is that he's been praying. He's been a man of prayer. He's been praying 3 times a day. And they devised a plan against his prayer. They went to the king and got an edict signed that in this kingdom, people can't pray to any other god except to the king. Prayer attacks the enemy. Enemy attacks the prayer. Enemy got so wild because I can only neutralize Daniel and his effectiveness by attacking his prayer life. And they clipped him because they found him praying against the edict of the king. And the edict says that anyone who found praying will be thrown into the lion's den. That's where we say that our God is sovereign over all situations. In Peter we read, our enemy is like a prowling lion, going left and right as whom he can prowl upon. Now, when prey has been thrown into the lion's den, what ought to happen to the prey? In no time, you should have been, finished. But then God didn't give the king sleep through the night. And early, I don't know how early it was. Maybe I would say that 2 or 3 o'clock. King could not sleep. He got up in his night dress and ran to the lion's den and started shouting and screaming, servant of the Most High God, Daniel, servant of the Most High God, has your God saved you? God is sovereign over all his creation. Lions are under his control. Though enemy is like a lion, final control is in God's hand. God has shut the mouth of this lion and David was saved. So, here we see the second aspect. Prayer attacks the enemy. Therefore, the enemy attacks prayer. They will benefit from our prayerlessness, but devil cannot stop God from answering our prayers. Because of that, he attacks prayer. Enemy cannot stop God from answering our prayers. And because of that, he wants to attack our prayers so that we will not pray. Sometimes he will make us to build up all kind of excuses. I'm busy. I doesn't know to pray. Many of us say that, no, I don't know to pray. What is prayer? Prayer is talking to God. Nothing beyond. Prayer is not a big art or activity. You know to talk, then you know to pray. Jesus said when he entered Jerusalem and he came to the temple, and when he saw the state of the temple, he got angry and wild. He overturned the table of the businessmen and all that what was happening, and he raised his voice and said, my Father's house is called a place of prayer, not a place for business. See, the world will change through our prayerfulness. If you want to see the world around you change, it can happen only through our prayerfulness. John Piper said like this: until you know that life is a war, you will not know what prayer is for. Until you know that life is a war, you will not know what prayer is for. Enemy hates prayer, for prayer attacks the enemy. Third one is this: prayer attacks the flesh, therefore the flesh attacks prayer. I don't feel like praying. We lack the motivation for it. Our flesh is after the prayer life. How many of you felt that you sit to pray and you start yawning and your mind going everywhere else, not able to control? All that while the mind was in control, but then you sit to pray, your mind goes everywhere. Go to that mart and this mart, and wherever shopping can happen, you will go for window shopping in your mind when you sit to pray. Not able to. Otherwise, when I know, when we are children, it was one thing before dinner. If you don't sit to pray, you will not get dinner. But then we find it difficult to. After that, after dinner, we are still excited and can go without sleeping. But then that 10-15 minutes of prayer, so strugglesome. Our flesh is so dominating us, and it cripples us when it comes to times of prayer. When we begin to pray, our flesh is going to be subject to the Spirit. It says, no? Paul said in his writings, there was, even in his life, there was this constant battle. What you don't want to do, he end up doing. And there is the fight was, there is always a talk about the black cat and the white cat. It is like always, it's a fight going on within us. Which cat you feed will see the victory, the other one being overpowered. If the black cat you keep feeding by your prayerlessness, finally that will overpower the white cat. That's the way it is going to be. But when we live a prayerless life, our flesh begins to get spoon-fed and get stronger and defeat our prayer life. If you give heeding to and feeding to your flesh, fleshly desires and fleshly needs, our flesh will become strong and our spirit will become weak, and spirit will be subject to the flesh, and the prayer will go down the drain, and there's no prayerless. There's no prayer life in us. The fourth one is this: that prayer attacks bad circumstances. Therefore, bad circumstances attack prayer. Oh, I've been praying for, but didn't change. Why should I be praying anymore? If God is God, by still why all these bad things happen? We can keep hearing all these kind of things, but then they don't realize God is sovereign over all situations. God has established His kingdom forever. No change. Nothing can shake that out. Don't give up on prayer, for God wants to move in our circumstances. We can change our spiritual climate around us by prayer. We can overcome our negative experiences and pray. And prayer will change things. Prayer can change things. Jesus didn't give up praying because of bad circumstances. When he was in the Garden of Gethsemane just before the cross, said that 3 times he prayed, Father, if it is possible, you can take away the cup from me. But yet not my will, your will be done. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. But Jesus didn't, oh, Father doesn't listen to me, I'm not going to pray thereafter. No. But he said that even on the cross, he was praying. Even on the cross. Father didn't take away the bad circumstances in Jesus' life because he has to go through the agony of the pain, agony and pain of the cross. He did go through it. And in the middle of it, we see Jesus praying, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. See, We will go through life will, create, or life will unfold before us in ways sometimes we don't imagine. There could be surprises our life will pop up when we wake up in the morning. It will take us to twists and turns which we least expect. But because of that, we say, no, I'm not going to pray. It has to be always a straight path. No. That's why I said there will be a portion of test and there will be a portion of trust. God wants to see through your life. Even in bad circumstances, even in difficult, challenging situations, you're called to pray and to be true to your calling in life. So Jesus didn't stop praying because he didn't see the desired answer. And the same way, because we didn't see the desired answer,